Sometimes in life, I feel really lost, like I need some guidance, maybe we could even say a sign, and so today I'm going to be crafting a bunch, a 4-digit number even, and here is my plan to use them, because this is the Update Adventures Let's Play, where I've been building stuff, killing stuff, and of course destroying stuff since 2012, and hello, I'm AppyXToyCat. Let's explain exactly what I'm going to do with a ludicrous number of signs, because my first idea is quite a simple one. It basically is to do what happens in real life, and rather than making a highway drive faster, you know, we haven't raised speed limits in most places in a very long time, instead of trying to make journeys like this one faster, currently it takes 1:12, the truth is that actually, if I shave 5 seconds off that by putting ice under it, I probably won't notice those 5 seconds, but what you will notice is when the journey gets better. So rather than having to go through the nether or use the sky rail, which I never do because I like going along the ground sometimes, why not make the journey along the ground better, like how I have my big map? And one of the things that I've noticed real highways do, at least in the United States, is they put giant billboards by the side of it. This is, if I'm not mistaken, something to do with the idea of freedom of speech, but what's really fun about it is, why can't I just have my own billboard and use a bunch of signs to get messages across? And I know what you're thinking, like, oh, Toycat, you don't like being advertised to, do you? But no, I love when you see something in a sign that says, like, you just proved that this sign works. And it's like, well, I mean, technically speaking, I did just read it. I love a sign that has got you by the fact that you read it. The only way you could prove this sign didn't work is if you hadn't read it, and then you'd have no sign to tell it was wrong, right? It's like, you know, we could put up a sign that's like, wow, this sign could be yours now. You know, like, yeah, and then we could put a phone number in there for people to call here, and then we use obviously my very real phone number, 0800 00 1066. But what's fun about this is we could put literally anything we want on here, because I believe that we have the freedom to say anything that we want. And so guess what? 83% of sign statistics are actually made up, if you'll believe it. So 83% sign stats are fake. And we can do this all day, every day. And basically every time that I pass this little section, it's an opportunity for me to decide to, if I want to be creative, be creative. If I want to feel advertised to, I can feel advertised to. I love the idea that I could have this little section in my world that is entirely, you know, like I can read it if I'm bored, or indeed, if people come through here, they can read it, or you can add to it. And I actually think that weirdly in Minecraft this works. In real life, we kind of feel like being advertised to is cheapening the experience, but I believe that we could put anything up right here, and even if I want to put genuine ads, there'd be something that's a little bit wholesome about it. Maybe that's just me that feels that way, maybe that's actually ridiculous, but I do feel that way, and it's my world, so that's what we're gonna do today. So that's only 20 signs we just placed, by the way, but it's already a decent start in my opinion. But what I was thinking is to make it feel more like a billboard and not a random collection of oak signs, what we could actually do is we could place some other wood in between. This is one of the most important things to my 1,000 sign plan, because 1,000 oak signs will look really boring and cluttered quickly, but if you use a bunch of different signs together, I think bamboo is one of the best looking examples. What we could actually do is we could kind of frame those signs using more signs. So if we wanted to, we could leave these signs blank, literally just use them as a filler, or we could put, there's that one key on your keyboard that looks like that. We could literally, oh wait, what did I just do? We could literally put like, you know, lines down here if we wanted to, or we could fill it with question marks. Literally anything goes if it's Minecraft, because signs are one of the most powerful, you know, again, true freedom places to express yourself. Just don't put any bad swear words. Actually, wait, no, you can put swear words on a sign now, right? Like, oh, that's very fun. Let me think of the worst thing I can put on a sign. I think that this is crazy, but you know, pussies don't buy marketplace maps. There we go. Let's see if I'm allowed to do that. Wow, I see how it is, Mojang. Anyway, the important thing to note here is that we can easily and quickly make our sign into something a little bit special. It's literally just a collection of signs, but using color, we can frame it quite well. By the way, I can't be the only one thinking that these sign shadows are really, really weird, right? But anyway, now my plan is to build far more signs, because I don't want to just build a highway billboard, although let's be honest, I think that's a fun enough build by itself. I do have bigger plans, and it relates to my volcano. I mean, really, if you think about it, my next big plan, I should specifically make every plan that I make along this little highway until I'm thoroughly entertained from start to finish, but that's not the way I do things in Minecraft. But the way I do things is take full advantage of the wandering trader who is here and ready for me to buy a bunch of dark oak from. Then I can use that dark oak to make how many signs? So many is the answer. Oh, that's also the answer to how many unfinished projects I have in my Minecraft world. Please don't look too closely at the crab. But what's important to say is that I really enjoy playing Minecraft this way, and I really do encourage anyone who works on the game, rather than encouraging yourself for perfectionism in everything that you do, I really just recommend break up every task you do into smaller tasks and then enjoy the process of completing those. And so one of my biggest small tasks ever was to make this mountain into a volcano. I did it, and I actually prepared a whole bunch of lovely B-roll shots of it that I'm not going to be able to use unless I throw them in the video right here. So, ooh, isn't this a great looking volcano when you look at it from other places? But what's really fun is I made this giant volcano over the course of over a year, and it's kind of just, you know, my own version of the Caves and Cliffs update. You know, the game can choose to make its own mountains, but I chose to make this. But a lot of people would say, like, well, isn't it incomplete, Toycat? That, you know, like, you just built a mountain and made volcano lava pour out the side, and sure, it took you dozens of hours, but is it complete until there's a function? But first of all, I think you get to decide when something's complete. Is it purely aesthetic or is it not? But second of all, I love that I left it how it was, because now I've got this idea of turning this lava pool into a lava river. I'm starting to slowly work on that, you might notice via live streams. But the second thing is I've got this perfect indoor space that is accessible via firework rocket only. I mean, later I could choose to change this, but right now, you've got to fly in through the roof. There's lava with signs underneath it. By the way, I used a couple hundred right there, and it worked very well, right? But this is proof that, like, oh yeah, I made this really cool entrance, but I didn't want to just build something in here for the sake of it. I wanted to wait until I had something really fun awaiting me, and so, you know what? Now that I've got all of these sticks and all of these logs, I think I'm ready to craft myself a bunch of signs and then use those as one of the exhibits in what is going to be a new build for this world, at least. That's right, actually, there's already a chest. I don't have to place one down. See, I'm getting good at that, but something I should always be cautious. I've got a respawn anchor right here. I should not try to use that assuming I'm in the nether. But yeah, I can actually choose to do something pretty fun here, and I can choose to start a brand new build, the Modern Art Gallery. And let me tell you, I've had some ideas sitting around waiting for this for a while. Like, I know I'm not the only one who's walked into one of those stores that just has a whole bunch of doors behind the checkout and thought to myself, you know what, this would be perfect for a Minecraft world. Why not have a wall of doors? And in fact, go a step further, why not have doors that go above the doors? And then, you know, this can stack and build. And once it's built enough, we have ourselves the full completion of a door that pulls off exactly what I'm looking for. Yes, that's right. I don't want this to be a door that in any way yells that it's a door. Instead, it should just tell you, you've clearly got to go in this direction. There's things to interact with, right? This is what I feel every single time people think that they're being inventive by using trapdoors to make slabs or texture or whatever. I just look at a trapdoor and I see a trapdoor, and so you have to look at my door and you're not going to see an entrance into my modern art gallery. Instead, you're going to see some confusion followed by maybe a way in if you can work it out by using the correct doors like so. So this is, you know, I feel like who dares enter a modern art gallery without going through a very strange piece of modern art, but I also think that there's a high amount of possibility for what I can do with the rest of this, right? I mean, even just the very entrance is something that inspires me to use some signs, but first we need some actual exhibits to go inside the gallery, and I have a very fun idea for the start. Although honestly, even before we build my first real exhibit, I should definitely mention the fact that yes, I built a beacon netherite a while ago, and I put it in my regular museum, but honestly, it's not a good fit for a regular museum. I think that as great as the beacon netherite is, yes, this is a great use of beacons, don't tell me otherwise. I have a beacon shortage in my world, but it's very important that I have this piece of modern art, which you can break with your fist. I decided to go risky on that one. I was fairly sure that Minecraft wouldn't let you break one of the most valuable items in your game without dropping it, and I'm very glad that I was correct about how that works. By the way, I guess you could argue these maps are a piece of modern art. These are just weird also, it looks as though you're not actually faster to break one of these using a pickaxe, so you might as well break it with your fist. But these maps that exist in the background are also a weird piece of art, as far as I can tell. Minecraft Bedrock, until recently, used to just regularly break maps. So there used to be 9 maps in here that represented the area around the museum. I did it to get the achievement, and so 2 of the maps bugged out into looking exactly the same. One of the maps became this. I'm gonna guess that's from the TU31 world, but I don't even know. And 6 of the maps have become blank, but you can see that's not how an item frame is meant to look. It's not that I took out the maps have literally just become invisible, which I kind of want to like use in some way, but if I break the map and replace it, it will actually come back to life. Like if I break this map and then put it back in there, oh, would you know, it's this again. So yeah, this is a piece of modern art that I cannot move because Minecraft be buggy sometimes, sadly. But what I can do, now that my beacon conduit has been perfectly moved, is to show you my second idea for something that I think would fit perfectly here, if I'm being honest, and it's one of my favorite ideas for this. Why not, instead of having a conduit in your world, instead have a conduit? So that's what I want to do right here. I want to take out all of these blocks, and instead of having, again, the most generic one that uses prismarine, prismarine's not even that good in Minecraft Bedrock, we're not playing Legends here or anything, what if instead we took full advantage of what we were doing here to instead have a conduit? So this is quite a few blocks, although I would actually say it's better if I'm going to have one side be invisible, for it to be the other side, or this side, to kind of like imply that there's a middle that we move around. But yeah, just like this, a really fun little play on words can become a reality just by being a little bit silly. And then we can even connect it up there. Oh, hay bales are a directional block? Well, that's something useful. Also, hay bales don't connect on the sides. This is the worst thing I've ever learned. But you know what else is the worst thing I've ever learned? The fact that people could look at this and not realize the beauty they're looking at unless there was a sign. And so, wow, wouldn't that be great if we could label our, you know, beacon Neverite, and even put a number at the front so people know the order of the exhibits. Beacon Neverite. I mean, I'd argue really this is 2. I think actually, you know, starting the numbering from 2 not only fits with the door being an exhibit, but also it will confuse people, my favorite thing to do. And then this is exhibit number 3, the conduit. Is that joke overdone? Yes. Is it something I've been wanting to do literally for the year since I heard the idea? Yes. Yes, it is. And so this is the plan for the Modern Art Gallery, to have lots of things that make you think. I mean, they're not necessarily good uses of blocks, but is anything in Minecraft a good use of blocks? Is having a bunch of flaming campfires actually a good use of my blocks? Some people would say no. Some people would say having a single dirt block that all of your signs come off is a really bad idea, but those people are idiots, I assume. I mean, I'm gonna wait until I die from that dirt block to actually correct them. But yeah, so here's the thing. Now we have to work on other exhibits, right? Okay, so for exhibit number 4, you're gonna have to play a game where you try to work out exactly what it is that I'm building here as I'm doing so. And you can tell me if you can work out the name for this as we go along. But yeah, I wanna, while we're doing this, actually talk about something that is very important, because I think that the world, rather the internet, has taken a drastic shift. Oh, there's stone under the mountain, because of course there is. It's a regular mountain. I think the world has taken a drastic shift that I would like to address at least somewhere on this channel, because it is something that is going to seriously affect you, whether you are a young person on the internet or not. Because as you might know, by this point, if not because of it directly, because of the noise that has come from it online, basically, there is a huge amount of censorship happening to the internet now, and it's happening under the guise that it often does, which is like to protect the children. But what I think is crazy is basically, you know, like every single, you know, authoritarian policy that ever, you know, has come out has come with that little, you know, string attached. It's a really, really, really easy way to make something seem more palatable to an audience of people who might otherwise find it to be abhorrent. Because if you say like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this thing where we say that actually we don't trust you to look at certain things, or, you know, like we want you to verify your ID before you do certain stuff, I feel like it's an easy way to make something seem, you know, like putting up extra barriers to accessing certain things is an easier way to make sure that thing doesn't exist. And yeah, ultimately, as much as I'd love to like lead and take that point as much as I could, I'm gonna actually address, you know, a lot of people are just saying like, oh yeah, YouTube AI is gonna call you a kid when you're not, and you're gonna have no choice but to only watch kid-friendly content. The internet is getting sterilized, man. And as much as I think that's a point that some people would love to make, I actually want to take the earnest opinion that even though it is not my view, that like, okay, let's say we are doing this on behalf of the children, isn't it a good thing then? Like, it's like, how could you be opposed to children not seeing adult content or seeing, you know, like violence or, you know, like content that they're really not supposed to, being a bit of a Minecraft YouTuber by opposing that, aren't you? But I think that, like if I think seriously about it, there is a really big discussion that has to be had as a society that we're never willing to have, like, as it's in its entirety. Instead, we kind of have in piecemeal, in my opinion. But basically, it's this idea that we kind of stopped children being personal possessions a while ago. And, you know, if you say it like that, I think it's very agreeable that, like, yeah, kind of, if you have a child, it's not just you that you affect, it's all of society as well. If you neglect a child, you are causing massive damage, again, hopefully to yourself, but really to society on a broader level too. Hey, there we go. The glow berries are growing. It's working perfect. I don't think this is something that can be overstated. And so, as a result, even though it goes against what a lot of people believe about how, like, oh yeah, it's kind of like your responsibility to deal with you, and that's how most people believe in most issues, it's something that we don't really agree, we don't, at least as a collective, in how we write laws and how we measure the world. It's not something that we actually seemingly take as an opinion when it comes to the broader world of, like, children. Indeed, I think that some of the revolutionary examples of this, you could say, are like, yeah, we have not just we don't just have a system where we educate everyone's children. We make it mandatory to send children to those places too, which I know is spicy to some people. But we have a really interesting situation going on where we actually, as a whole, are so interested in your children that we think that it is in everyone's interest that you educate them. And so, yeah, the reason I bring that up right now is because, also this is, wait, what just happened? Did the fire just burn oh, I think it did. Well, I think that'll be a fun part of this exhibit, to say the least. But now the plan is simply to surround it on all sides. Make sure that none of this stone is visible, because it shouldn't be. Geez, what's that doing there? Gonna remind me I'm in a real mountain and not in the Nether for some reason. But yeah, this is an entirely buildable thing in the Nether, if you want it to be. Which is one of the funniest things about this, in my opinion, is the fact that everything we're building in this modern art gallery is technically netherable, right? I think that's a beautiful fact. Hopefully you think it's a beautiful fact. But yeah, I think that we are starting to have this world where we think that we don't just have a financial interest in your child. That is to say, if your child doesn't go to school, they're now going to be, if not a burden on the rest of us, that, you know, like in terms of committing crimes, they're not going to be as well off themselves. So I think we're starting to say, like, okay, now what your child watches is not even your responsibility anymore. You know, you hand your child a phone because of course you do. And so now it's going to be everyone else's responsibility if that goes wrong for them, which is why we're making it we're making it social media's responsibility to regulate that. And I think that this is something I used to struggle with for a while, like why it was that way fewer people are having children. And as I'm getting old, you know, even though I love to just be like, oh yeah, the truth is that we're getting, I think a lot of like older people jump to that idea, but as I'm getting, you know, older and to the age where people around me start to either have kids or specifically swear off kids forever and actually mean it, you know, if you're 18 and you say you're never going to have children, you got a bunch of years to potentially change your mind. If you're 33 and you say you're not having children, especially as a woman, that's like, that's locking in that decision as close to it as you can, at least, right? And so I think that it's really interesting to see as people lock in these decisions that a lot more people are choosing not to have children. And ultimately, the reason why is because children have become a liability. What used to be an asset, right? If you were in the 1800s, a child would mean an extra pair of hands on your farm. In the 1900s, you know, a child could mean like, you know, like you've got someone who's at home full time to look after them, so it's at least you know, best case it's a hobby, right? That's a belief I share a lot on this channel. But a child was kind of a hobby for a while, but now everyone's so busy they don't have time to pick up spare hobbies. You know, like no one's looking for an extra hobby with their time, right? And so as a result of that, I think that we've moved to the point where a child is a huge liability, and you have to be really passionately into the hobby already to want to get into that. Except that's how, you know, like a lot of people who are in stable positions where a child is welcomed will do it. I think a lot of people are coming into families and households where that's not true. I think more and more specifically, we're seeing people have children that really aren't that interested in the process. And it's probably always been true. I'd hate to sound the alarm and pretend that, like, yeah, actually people used to be interested in children until this generation. But actually, the way that I see it and the way I really view it is that, yeah, people used to believe that having a child was fun. Now having a child is this huge burden that thankfully you can put away by just, you know, like, you can put a child away by giving it this limitless source of entertainment. And, you know, this is something that is a trend across the industry. If you want to know a fun little truth about this, actually, there's a huge rise in, like, all-inclusive resorts, but specifically all-inclusive resorts that have child, you know, not education, but like fully child-free areas, or rather, sorry, fully child-looked-after areas. Places a lot of parents are feeling like they are burnt out from their kids. And so, even though I have this really strong belief, and I think it's, if I'm being honest, a very true belief that, you know, it should be the parents' responsibility what kids look for, I think that parents, by and large, whether I agree with their decision or not, are deciding, yeah, actually, I just want kids to be the easiest they can be, because there is so much effort involved in raising a human being that people aren't looking for. And so now we are setting the precedent by saying that everyone on YouTube is under 18, and saying now you have to raise your kids yourself. By the way, nobody eats this exhibit. That's the name. I hope you like it. Anyway, yeah, I think there are much broader points. I think everyone is talking about this from like quite a selfish perspective. I mean, I personally think there's quite a few websites that are choosing to, like Reddit is seeing me as a child despite the fact that I have had an account for 13 years, so I can't imagine what age they must have think I would be when I signed up for it. But yeah, I think it's really easy to take this from the selfish perspective of like, okay, yeah, the internet that we love and the internet that, you know, a lot of us, myself included, grew up with, it's going. But I think there is the broader societal concern of we are saying that, yeah, actually it's entirely cool for parents to say, or rather it's entirely cool for the government to say what it is that you can and cannot watch. You know, like you kind of, I think that in general in society, we should have very few cases where you are, you know, like guilty until proven innocent. And I think that that is something that is a broader concern, because now, anytime there is any amount of concern for anything, we've proven that, yeah, the one thing that we'll all, you know, give up on our ability to, you know, like see stuff from, the time where we say, actually, that's entirely fine, is when it comes to children. We say, oh, right, you, I was mad that you were censoring this, but if you're censoring it for the kids, then go ahead, you know, that's entirely fine. And I think that that is the broader actual concern we should worry about, that we have now just set the precedent that, like, yeah, anything, anytime we want, can in fact be just cut off because, like, oh yeah, it's not child friendly. And I think that's something that I think now is hopefully the awakening for so many. During my childhood, so many things, whether it was video games or rap music or like so many things had like this ban threat, like you know, I guess thrown over them. This idea that, like, yeah, by default, you know, of course it's the government's job to look after your kids, is, you know, becoming more and more mainstream. And I feel like that's like this cyclical loop that, like, oh yeah, that has to happen until we start to, you know, like have our own shared opinions. And I feel like it's concerning that it's happening again, but it will continuously happen. And a lot of people, you know, like a lot of people would argue, like, oh yeah, why do children need to be looking at, like, you know, any protests that are happening right now? Why do children need to see any violence that's happening in the world? Can't we let them live this perfect life where they don't see any of that? And it is quite an interesting opinion, because you know, like, I think if you are, you know, if you're in my age or Gen Z, you probably grew up with an internet where basically anything you wanted to see, even the most messed up stuff, was just available on tap. Like, I mean, as an example, you know, I'm sure that not all of you know what I've just made right here. You might be at a loss for words, I think we could say. I'm at number 5, at a loss for words. Maybe we should put loss in capital right there. But like, the truth is that, like, there are lots of messed up things on the internet. But in a way, it's kind of like a preparation for real society. Like, the first time I went to a city, and I saw one of my friends, like, get tricked by, like, a beggar being like, oh, I've just lost everything, and right now, the only thing I need is money for this, you know, like, it's really, really easy the first time you go to a city to feel tricked and to get tricked into doing something that maybe you're not specifically looking to do. It's really, people are really good at creating compelling stories in that way, because the real world isn't this perfectly sanitized childhood that we'd like to have. And I think that, oh, this is a section of my build that I only, oh yeah, this is really handy, actually. I was assuming that there would be a tunnel that I could link into around here. There it is. So this is what I want to, I want to build a big tunnel here, because I want to work on a big project that relates to it. But anyway, yeah, I think that seeing the world as it actually is way more useful, and has been way more useful for me. And I think that that is something that we lose if we try to pretend that, like, oh yeah, there should be like a safe kid space version of the internet. You know, like, I don't get me wrong, I don't think we should have like 5-year-olds wandering around cities getting stabbed or anything, like, because experience is better that way. But I think that when you learn for yourself that, like, oh yeah, this is the real world. But you know, like, the number of scams I learned about by losing money on RuneScape rather than real money, it's actually better for me to have met some. Honestly, I bet a lot of them were like other teenagers, but I bet some old man at some point stole my GP, told me he was gonna trim my armor, and then lied to me. And as silly as it is to say, I think that I'm probably better off for the experience of having that weird man do that for me. You know, actually, using that phrasing, it makes me sound like I'm very pro-censorship. Anyway, the important thing to know is that this is happening worldwide. The UK has laws about it, but other countries have threatened laws or have, you know, like got vaguely worded laws. They're starting to use to mean the same thing. And basically, the internet is now starting to become something that governments have more say over. Something we used to look at and say, wow, look at those strange, you know, like dictatorial countries over there trying to suppress a rebellion. But now, like, it's okay because, you know, we're in the West. And honestly, you know, I just sometimes I want time to myself, so my kid has to look at the iPad, but I don't want to have to look at what the kid's looking at on the iPad every now and then. So I found some absolutely wild video. I can give the counterpoint that I grew up with very young siblings or half siblings, and the stuff they watched, I was like, man, why is a 6-year-old even choosing to watch this? Like, if this showed up on my feed as a 6-year-old, I'd be like, that seems weird. But I think there is like you know, the other angle of this is that, like, yeah, there's an inherent desire for taboo. Like, if someone says you can't watch something, you might want to immediately go ahead and like do that just to see what they're talking about. And yeah, I have to say that it's weird because someone should do something. It's just everyone agrees it should have been parents. And I guess now it's not. So speaking of things that parents aren't going to do, I'm now going to work on my final exhibit today, the one that relates to all these signs. Because as much as I love my door wall, or my beacon netherite, my conduit, or even my my inedible exhibit, let's be honest, it's entirely edible. This should be Charlie's, you know, the chocolate factory for Minecraft players, but it's not gonna be. But yeah, as much as I love that stuff, this is gonna be my big build to end out this part of it, because I love the idea of signs, right? Like, what if I have, you know, like, I guess we should give this one a name first, actually. That would be a good place to start. This can be, you know, useful directions. And something you might not realize, maybe just me, is like, there's a few countries where there's signs everywhere. I noticed this when I was driving in Texas recently, that, like, everything is written down in words on a sign, which means that if you're driving especially fast, you're like, whoa, okay, there's a lot of information they want me to know about. But also it means that your odds of reading any of those signs starts to go down. And so I figure, wouldn't it be fun if, to prove the overloading value of signs, in the same way that we might like to believe that there's a lot of information, I'm going to now place a bunch of signs down, and the goal is that you've got to not get lost. There's going to be a way in and a way out, and or rather, there's going to be a way to the next exhibit and a way out. And which way is which, you're gonna have to read the signs to understand. Okay, I was amazed at how long it actually took. It was about 40 minutes to terraform the area and then place the signs in, and that is now what represents many hundreds of signs of different varieties. And although there's a bunch of text over there to kind of mess with things, I'm just going to quickly show you the very end text here, because I feel like for this to be an exhibit, it can't just be a bunch of signs, there needs to be a message. And so, do you see how with so many messages, it can be hard to read any of them? Well, that's why you should stop reading. That's right, only learn information through TikToks like the smart people do, and indeed like the children of tomorrow will. And just in case we never come back to build another exhibit, I've even labeled the rest of this as the I never finished this. But this is our modern art gallery so far. It actually kind of has this problem if it's a bunch of different things in a room where you kind of have to skip from one. I think a big open floor plan was like perfect, but also perfectly wrong for this. So I think it's something that could do with like some minor improvements, but I'm really happy with how just a single episode and I guess like a good 15 Minecraft days have turned this into something that is a little more special than it used to be. As for what we could do in the future, I think that definitely there's a big argument that really I should make a minecart rail in here, not just for me, but also for the Elder Guardian. Right now, I have an Elder Guardian, and I think that as silly as it is, I think the Elder Garden actually makes way more sense to be inside of a flaming volcano than inside of a regular museum, right? I don't actually keep that many mobs in my mob museum, and so what if I put the silliest mobs, like an Elder Guardian or like a Creaking, deep inside of my modern art museum instead? Because again, who loves being hit by this effect? Not me. For literally for years, I've been trying to terraform this area around the area, but I've not been able to because I sit here and do it, I get hit with this. And even if I had, like, ultimately it's just been a real pain. And I would love to free up some extra space, which I can do if I move the Elder Guardian away. It would just also mean having to have like a minecart rail here that doesn't uglify the area. Maybe it could go through underground and then go through the mountain. Or maybe it could like perfectly, I love, have you ever seen one of those highway bridges in Texas where like you see multiple ramps going over each other? I went through the Katy interchange. I think it's the most stacked one in the world. It was super, super fun. But what's fun about that is like, yeah, we could build one of those in our Minecraft world. Just keep having more paths crisscross over and around each other over here. I think it's a great idea. But again, it's one of those future ones. Because for now, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed my talking about a very serious thing that you probably heard too much about from the kind of futurologist argument of like, oh, does that mean that having children is, it's now socially acceptable to say, I don't care what my children do? Clearly, you know, that's because I think that has huge impacts on whether you want to have kids or not. You know, I think that if having kids seems exhausting, but you know, oh yeah, if you ever get too tired of having the kid, just plop an iPad in front of them and then go on a holiday. You know, that makes having children more appealing as a concept, right? And so with that said, I hope that I finished this video on a controversial enough note. I hope you've enjoyed the Let's Play, and we're going to do another one, because every time I finish one of these, I'm like, this was a lot of fun, but it's very much old YouTube, and, you know, like, how much old YouTube do people need? But I want to do another one anyway, and because I've got a big project I want to do in my world, and it only really fits a Let's Play, so I hope I see you next week too. If you enjoy these Let's Plays, consider subscribing, also becoming a member, because we're doing a member-only memberthon. Wait, no, we're doing a memberthon soon in this Let's Play, where every member will make the stream go a couple of minutes longer. It's going to be a lot of fun. Join me for that one in the future. But for now, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Goodbye.